Hi.
Hey, Deborah.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for coming and talking with me again. I think you're helping me so much. I can't even tell you how much you're helping me. So,
You're welcome. Thank you.
yeah. So we are going into the improved stage of our last conversation, and I kind of wanted to go over a couple things with you,
Okay.
and what we're trying to do here. We are trying to, from my understanding from our last conversation, we are trying to increase student engagement. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one of my goals for the year for these
Okay.
guys is to get them more involved.
Get them more involved. Okay. So I think when we last spoke, we were at 68% of your students. That would be 15 out of 22.
Yeah, that's right for my second period.
Okay. And then you want to increase that to 82%, which would be 18 out of 22. Is that
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah.
How's that
Something
going?
achievable, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, small steps.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
It went pretty well over the last few weeks. I came up with a rubric to kind of gauge how they were doing with that. So I think it's critical, to build some teamwork skills when you're in AV, because there's really very, very few things in AV that don't involve teamwork.
Sure.
Or you're working in isolation. That just rarely happens. So I wanted to engage with each other and talk. And so we're working on a project in partner groups. And it was more hands-on. So it was definitely, I was able to see some more engagement as we came closer to the deadline, which I repeatedly stressed the importance of making an AV with them. And I definitely saw some pickup,
Okay.
especially when we got to the part where you're actually filming and doing some of
Okay.
that.
What did you
really
do differently, do you think?
Well, I think just engaging with students one-on-one, and then letting them have some freedom to fulfill their. This project was all about what they wanted to do.
Okay.
They picked what direction they wanted to go in.
Okay.
Whether it was a short film or a promo or something like that. So just getting hands-on, equipment in hands,
Uh-huh.
and then finding out where they were with that, and getting them to work with each other on how does this mic system work, and they
Okay.
have to figure
So
that out together.
they worked together
Yeah,
to. Okay. So the engagement was higher, you think?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So let me just ask you, we had talked about the increase in percentages and things like that. So what's your goal here? We talked, it's fine to say numbers and things like that, but do you have an ultimate goal on that engagement piece? If you were to have the best day ever, and you can walk away in good reflection to say, wow, that went really well. What is your idea on the perfect day of student engagement?
I guess I'd say, where everybody was laughing and having fun in class, and
Okay.
high-fiving each other on the way out
Okay.
the door would be the perfect
Okay.
Disney World scenario, right?
Yeah, for sure. So do you feel like that was a day that you could typically say that you were close to that, or
For
as
it
far
depends
as
on the percentage you're talking about. We definitely
okay.
have not come close to 100%.
Okay. So where do you feel you're at right now since our first conversation?
It definitely, like I said, it picked up. Of course, I have some students that are just passionate about it. They plan to continue their education in film after high school, and so locked in is the way I described them from the very start. And then some that enjoy it and have been engaged, and then also a few that just don't seem to be interested in the subject
I
matter
got
at all.
you. No matter what you do,
No,
or
yeah, no
okay.
matter. Well, they're not interested in turning in, or that's where I saw some improvement. Some of the ones that I thought wouldn't because they just won't turn things in.
Okay.
Even if I see them do the work, I saw them improve on doing more work during this process, because again, it was their story, let them have the opportunity to tell their own story and give them the tools and resources to do that. And I did see them pick up, and there was a definite uptick
Okay.
in some of those guys. And then of course I have some that I'm just not reaching at all. They're like, and but it's only like a few. There's like one or two that really just do not engage.
Okay. So so that's a typical experience. All right.
But
now,
typical, but with again like coaching them through this project, and seeing them once they got their hands on the equipment to actually go into production mode. That's when they picked up and they engaged with each other and started working. And they crossed. I mentioned that they were in groups of two, but they also worked collaboratively with other groups to act in each other's films and help each other out, which was really good to see, and not something I necessarily even coached them to do. They just they had a buy-in to produce their project that they pushed that.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you are talking about one specific project that you had these kids working on. How are you measuring the engagement levels? Because we're going to talk about the data in just a little bit. You brought me some different numbers and things like that, but how are you measuring? If you had the base point from where we first began, then talking about even that project,
that rubric that I was telling you about, a lot of it in my mind was observation, so it was going to be based on like active participation, body language, responsiveness to questions from me or from other kiddos in the class, and then just sustain engagement. Are they going to keep doing this?
Okay, so a rubric, and we have 2 weeks worth of observations. Is that correct?
Yes, we're pulling into the finish gate for this project over those 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. So how did you score these kids on that rubric? What shows you that there is an increase, or based on your observations and things like that? How do you know these kids are becoming more engaged?
Again, like that, body language is huge. Being a new teacher, that was kind of a surprise to me to see the poor body language coming in. So, and so like I've quickly learned to associate apathy with like poor body language. If they just correlate, but you can see when they perk up. You really can.
Okay. Do you take note of that to use in the future, or just
observations again? Like, what am I doing? Am I doing anything to create this environment? That sort of thing, right? But definitely, you'll see shoulders pick up. Eyes, perk up as well when they're engaged and not just like staring down at a phone. And then to that point, like seeing those phones go away and seeing them like working hand in hand on camera with their partners,
trading it.
Yeah,
sure. So, go ahead.
And then one of the more challenging ones is responsiveness to especially to opening questions, and as a group.
Okay, so you start the lesson off with you started doing the open-ended
questioning? You can always just like, hey, what are you guys working on today? What do you guys think you need to accomplish those tasks? Like I had them do a shot list for their production, and then literally say, okay, what do you need? And definitely that was good because it made them think, and they started well, what about this? What do we need to do for audio? And what can we use? What do we have in our storage closet that we can use? That sort of stuff. So good engagement there.
So this rubric system that you assessed over that 2-week period, do you want to stick with that strategy? Is that working for you? Is there something else you had in mind, or just tell me about what your thoughts are on that?
I think there, the the rubric strategy is like, I think, a long-term tool to use. Just and again, it's for mostly they obviously don't know about this, so it's mostly for me to
Oh,
assess
sure.
how I'm doing, like, and the things that I'm doing, whether they work or not.
So they don't know that you're
No,
assessing
I'm
them.
like, hey, like, like
Okay.
you're being assessed on your participation. No, it's just for me,
Okay.
and hopefully, as a new teacher, it'll help me, like, help guide me in the future, like what works, what doesn't work.
Okay.
But there's certainly, I think, that it's definitely a long term thing versus, like, I think there's, like, shorter term things that, like shorter term lessons, depending on what we're working on at the time. But again, moving forward, I'll probably use some other strategies.
Okay. Do you
Like,
have any in mind?
yeah, like one that I've been thinking about is uh, this a 3-part strategy,
Mm-hmm.
and you, like, find something that you find engaging and share it with them, and then ask them to literally describe what they see with that. So
Okay.
we're hopefully you're getting the ball rolling, with some engagement on
Uh-huh.
that, and then ask them to interpret. Like, after they built a little bit of rapport with each other and what they're actually
Uh-huh.
seeing, ask them what they think it means, and just leave that out there for them to answer. And then, lastly, and most importantly, ask them to, like, question it, like, why,
Oh,
the
wow.
why.
So that sounds like the See, Think, Wonder. I know that we talked about that
Yeah, yeah,
after
yeah,
our
yeah,
conversation. I gave you a couple tools to
yeah.
use with that. So did you try that already?
Yes.
Okay, how'd that go?
Uh, Mixed results. Again, I think it's interesting because having the class that I have with, again, some people, they're just passionate about this. They're more than willing and eager to jump in and answer these questions. Um, and as a teacher, who's trying to facilitate uh, engagement, telling someone no, don't answer, let somebody else answer.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah. You
seems
always have one or two, right?
to yeah, don't
Mhm.
like, squash their enthusiasm for it. But those people are the ones that are willing to pop out and answer
Mhm.
those questions and be the ones that are, like, thinking about it. And so I have a good base there that does do that, and a little uptick in, like, stuff that I see from the rubric where maybe they're not the ones answering the question, but maybe I see them sit back in their chair and the eyes perk up, and they're at least
Oh,
listening
so there's the
to,
body language.
yeah, they're at
Okay,
least listening to their
okay.
fellow students,
Well,
and that's good.
that is good.
It's
So,
like the first step in building that sense of comfort that they
yeah,
need to have the
yeah.
kind of conversations I'd hope that they would have.
And you said that the engagement levels are increasing at least a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. We're going to talk about this in just one moment, but what, like, for the next couple weeks? I know we're going into holiday season and things like that, but what would success look like to you in the next couple weeks?
I'm seeing a little bit of it already
Okay.
because I think, like, with having them more engaged and potentially even more engaged with me, like I was saying, with uh, asking them what they need, showing them what we have, and letting them kind of figure that out, how to use these
Okay.
things, and helping when needed. They're building more of a relationship with me, so I see that they're coming to me, like, with
Oh.
with more things, like, even if it's just like, hey, you know, I'm going to be out of class on Friday because I'm going to a wedding. I want to know what I'm going to miss, or if I'm going to miss anything that I need to take care of while I'm out of class. And I'm seeing an uptick in that, and that tells me that engagement's getting better.
Good. Okay. Progressive, right? Okay. So we're going to take a look at this data that you gave me,
Yes. Yeah.
and we've categorized it a little bit. We put some numbers here. I'm just going to kind of
Yep.
show it here. So there's a couple green spots here where there was no growth, but
These are my
why is that?
star students.
These are your star students. Okay.
All
And
those guys.
then I see some increases, pretty much from almost everybody. There's a few that we have some zeros. Um, Tell me about the students that you had mentioned that aren't progressing. I mean, it definitely looks like we've hit our mark. Getting to the 82% for sure.
Yeah.
But what about, how do you feel about those other students?
And this is again like something very new and interesting for a brand new teacher. I have a kid that just I think I counted them about 3 weeks ago, and we were already at 18 tardies and 20 absences for the year.
Okay.
He's one of those students.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not coming to class until like the last 20 minutes of class, or just not coming at all,
okay,
it's going to be hard to be actively engaged.
So that's where that
low then interestingly, also interestingly, as a new teacher, he and another student that is always here, but always very withdrawn. Is the way I'd put it.
He's present, but he's
present,
not.
But he's very withdrawn, and he and the kids that are absent, when we have a chance to partner with somebody, they're like magnets to each other. They like immediately.
So
they're not necessarily good for each other either, because they're not. Neither one of them are particularly engaged. And I may like actually rescind that. Part of this was like in part of measuring engagement. It was like formative check-ins along the way, because this is a larger project, and you need, like any AV project, you need it's going to take a few weeks to get some stuff done. So there were multiple check-ins, and
checking
in
with
those guys, they just won't engage in the formative work. They won't do it. They won't. Even though, like, turns out when the project was due, we had one of those guys that, in that group, the two of those guys, they turned the project in early. But the formative stuff, which would have indicated some engagement to me, they just didn't do it.
Okay.
And
so
it's
they just won't do it.
Yeah. And
so
I'm not sure, exactly what's up with that.
Okay. What tools could I potentially help you with? You've done rubrics. We've done the observation. We've done even these conversations that we're having. So reflection. I'm doing reflections, but
I would just say what practical guidance would you give, like based on kids that are like that? I mean, I feel like in my mind, he did turn the summative in on time, and it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Okay.
And it met all the requirements for the rubric that I put together for that. And I think they know if they do well on the summative.
Oh yeah.
Then those formatives, if they're okay with a low B or a C in the class, they just can cruise.
Okay. So it's a behavior.
Yeah.
Behavior thing. Okay.
So I don't know what to do about that, honestly.
Okay. Have you tried anything outside that box of just like, you're doing the lesson, sure, you're following your plan by the day, but is there anything else that you've
had the conversations with them? It's like, hey, you're going to get a 0 if you don't turn in the formatives. That's all there is to it.
What do you think you could do, though? Is there anything that you think you could? And how do you feel about that? Like,
I've had like the more, we've had like the really objective conversations and the subjective too, because I've like spoken with both of them separately. It's like, hey, you guys, you're pretty good at this stuff. But this isn't, how it really works. If you're interested in it, then you have to show interest. In it.
So we're still working on that.
Yeah. So there's like the personal and like the stuff that like this is the result if you don't do it. All these things. And
it sounds to me like you were doing a lot of different strategies, and you've honestly figured out what works and what does not work. So I think what we could do is, so you've tried See, Think, Wonder, and you've done this other one with just the body language and things like that. And besides rubrics, are there any other ways that you want to assess engagement? Or
I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's just seeing them like have an uptick in like participation.
Okay.
Where they, I mean, they're coming. They're literally coming to me.
And they are. You said they
Yeah,
are. Okay.
yeah, and giving me like I've got again within the last 2 weeks I've gotten multiple like whether it was like through Canvas or they're stopping by my office to talk about what's going on and like what's going on in class and they don't want to like miss they don't want to miss an assignment or get behind on assignments. So I think that's good. I think they've kind of started to realize like we're going to move forward and you know you don't want to get behind. So.
No, true. And so when you're saying that, I'm hearing the word communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's my interpretation of this.
Yeah, I think like all relationships, like again, like all our relationships are built on communication, right?
Yeah.
And I came into this like that was you know my hope is to build relationships with these kids, and so I guess that the engagement part that's why it's so important to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, to me, this is my interpretation, and I'm just thinking communication. Could that be another way of engagement? Like, could that be categorized as engagement? And if so, can you add that to your measurement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely smart.
Okay. You've said a lot today. Is there anything blaring at you from this conversation that you want answered or that we need to work through and talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot.
Okay. So I think what we can do then is just kind of take a little break, and then maybe we can regroup after the holidays.
Okay.
And we'll come back and talk about it some more. Yeah. And I would love to get your take on this communication piece of these kids coming to you, because that's definitely something. You know, as far as engagement, do you want to go forward with that? Do you want to just kind of take it as it comes, and then maybe we'll think of some other strategies to go on. Are there any other strategies that you want to work on besides the engagement piece? Are there any other teaching strategies that you need help with, or you are looking for maybe to enhance your lessons or your experiences or anything like that?
Hopefully through all of this and like our effort here, you know, to like make this happen, they're seeing like some of the reality that I do care about them and what they're doing, and hopefully that's why they're coming back to me. So like anything that we can do to build on that element of it, that I think is critical, because you know if they realize you know how much I do care about their success and them, then anything we can do to build on that I think would go beyond. Okay.
So what we'll do is we will regroup. Well, we'll come together in a couple weeks. And kind of figure out how everything is going from there, and then we'll just talk about it again.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Deborah.
Sure.